Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Evolving Solutions Technology Update. We're extremely excited that you can be here today. My name is Bo Gebbe, Vice President of the company, and pleased to be your host for today. If you're not familiar with Evolving Solutions, or if you have been a longtime customer and you're joining us here this year, thought it might be helpful just to give you a brief overview of our organization. So Evolving Solutions is celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. We are super excited about that. Our organization really focuses on modernization and automation of clients' workloads, and that's really focused around their mission critical workloads, applications that are really helping support and drive the business forward. We are based in the Midwest, but we work with clients all across the country and in several countries outside of the US as well. And so if you're either a long-term client of Evolving Solutions or you're new to the company, we really do appreciate your time and for you being here today. Our agenda today includes several outstanding Evolving Solutions team members and some folks from our partner community. We'll kick it off with Jamie Gamak, who's our president and CEO, and we'll talk a little bit about the Evolving Solutions transformation and how we're supporting clients on their hybrid cloud journeys. We'll flip it over to Paul Zakopoulos from IBM, who's going to talk about 3 critical things that you need to be thinking about in this wave of transformation, including artificial intelligence, security, and cloud. I'm excited to introduce several speakers from Evolving Solutions in a little bit who are going to join us really around a roundtable discussion around hybrid cloud and how we're working with our clients on their journeys. And then we'll wrap it up later this morning with Matt Watts from NetApp, who's going to talk about thriving in this cloud wave. I think we've got an outstanding lineup of speakers, so let's get rolling. And before we do that, I invite you to watch this brief video.
Organizations are increasingly deploying a hybrid multi-cloud approach to achieve their business transformation goals. Using the correct combination of on-premise and public cloud resources improves efficiency and maximizes your technology spend. But an effective hybrid multi-cloud strategy requires a combination of ingenuity, dedicated expertise, and the right plan and partner. That's where Evolving Solutions can help. Through long-term relationships with clients, our team of experts integrate their proven expertise in modern platforms with enterprise cloud strategies to help organizations adapt their infrastructure to support modern applications through APIs, continuous integration, and microservices, modern operations that are automated and monitored, and modern platforms including public cloud, hyper-converged, and storage and networking. Evolving Solutions' hybrid cloud vision guides our team in developing and implementing strategies that simplify the cloud journey for our clients, enabling their organizations to thrive and grow. At Evolving Solutions, we believe cloud is not a place. Cloud is a set of disciplines. Let's get to work.
I'm pleased to welcome our first speaker here this morning. Jamie Gamak is President and CEO of Evolving Solutions. Jamie co-founded Evolving Solutions 25 years ago and continues to lead our company today as its President and CEO. Together with the extended Evolving Solutions team, Jamie has built the company into a leading technology solution provider focused on helping clients modernize and automate their mission-critical infrastructure in this modern world of digital transformation. In addition to Evolving Solutions, Jamie founded Kiva, a services organization focused on cloud automation, orchestration, DevOps, and containerization of workloads in 2018. One of Jamie's true passions in life is giving back to the communities where he resides. He has led multiple Evolving Solutions and Kiva philanthropic initiatives in which the companies have provided technology, financial, and labor support to charitable organizations throughout the Midwest. Jamie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Bo. Very much appreciated. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Evolving Solutions Technology Update. As Bo mentioned, my name is Jamie Gamak. I'm the President and CEO of Evolving Solutions. And on behalf of the entire Evolving Solutions team, I would like to thank you for joining us here this morning. I am so excited to be here today. And while I am not physically in front of you presenting face-to-face, I have felt daily changes toward the positive that a move toward an eventual full return to meeting everyone face-to-face is imminent. It is also exciting that many of us are willing to have an opportunity to get together at one of our golf events across our regional offices this afternoon. As some of you may know, this is our 25th anniversary for the Evolving Solutions organization. So in general, the entire year is actually exciting. I am so happy that we're going to be able to gather and enjoy the summer and to celebrate a company milestone as important as this with many of our clients, vendors, and team members. It is hard to believe, but it's actually been 2 years since I've had an opportunity to be in front of you all at this event, and I feel somewhat like a caged animal with someone slowly opening the door to let me out. Next slide, please. So I know that we are all trying hard to put the past 15 months behind us and move forward. And people that know me well know that I'm not one to dwell on the past, but I do want to spend a minute or two talking about some positives that we have taken away. I really have taken a reflective approach and identified, positive characteristics from the past year that we can hopefully retain and benefit from as we move forward and return to a more normal life routine. It's easy to overlook the positives, I believe, amidst the uncertainty and stress that many people experienced in both their personal and professional lives, by the way. But when you really focus on it, they really are not that hard to find if we think about them. We learned as an organization, as team members, to be more empathetic to one another, and I think more acutely aware of the challenges that other team members may have been experiencing. And it sounds counterintuitive to what we believe was the case because of the multitasking aspect of it, but I feel that as a whole, we became better listeners throughout the proliferation of Zoom, WebEx, and team video calls. And again, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it seems to be the case. As a company, we improved our virtual onboarding experience to where it was nearly as effective as in-person boarding. And I expect that will benefit us in the future as we have more and more remote workers that we're adding to the team. The greater acceptance by clients of remote services work broadened the talent pool of technologists that we were able to bring into the company from around the country. And again, I expect that to continue as well and be a big benefit for us in the future as we add more and more people. Our interaction, our ability to collaborate with you, our clients, and our partners through the new technology and tools that were available, although not as ideal as being face-to-face, was successful and effective nonetheless. And most importantly, our culture and our collaborative spirit were stressed, but definitely not broken. And we really lived our deeply embedded core values of do the right thing, be a team player, and be humbly confident throughout the pandemic. I fully expect that we can take some of these positive outcomes of a negative situation and continue to have them be part of our culture or processes moving forward, as I believe they will allow us to be an even stronger and more collaborative company. Throughout the entirety of the many town halls that I led during the pandemic, I stressed one thing over and over again. The company was committed to continuing to invest in our people and our business, and we were steadfast in our resolve to come out the other side a stronger and more nimble organization. I am sure there were people that were tired of hearing that from me, but it was more important than just about anything else that I delivered from a message standpoint to the company. What we didn't realize, I believe, at least I didn't, was that the employees of Evolving Solutions, through their positive actions in a difficult situation, were going to be a big part of helping us achieve that goal. As I look to, across the industry and with our clients and really acclimating to, a post-COVID hybrid routine, there's still a lot of uncertainty out there. And I think we all are going to have to adapt to that uncertainty. People are coming back together at different times. There isn't a specific recipe that we're following. So I think we are going to, as an organization and as a society, continue to have to figure this out as we are becoming more open and willing to get together face to face. And I do believe that from a face-to-face standpoint, we will be getting together as not only an organization, which we're already doing, but with our clients sooner rather than later. And that is such a big thing for us as an organization. I feel it is imperative that we get back out in front of our clients if we're really going to be as effective as I know we were in the past. And we did a good job over the past 15 months. I think we're a better organization when we can be out in front of you face to face. We also need to be able to learn from and maintain the proven new ways that we use to interact and communicate. There were a lot of great tools that we learned about. We use them effectively, and in this new hybrid approach, I think we will need to continue to use them under certain circumstances. And I think they will benefit us and provide long-term benefit. And one kind of odd thing from a service delivery perspective, there was more remote work expectation because we couldn't be on site. And I think that is going to be more of a return to normalcy, where there may very well be down the road more clients expecting our services personnel to be on site. But I also think that there will be a balance by allowing more and continued remote work to be done. From a continued business and technology growth perspective, I think by and large, the consensus that I've heard, and I've been part of it, and I feel this way, is that there are very positive economic signs, and there's a lot of pent-up demand in the technology industry. I have had an opportunity to meet with a lot of people to discuss this subject. In fact, I had a one-on-one conversation with someone on the board of the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis, and she and the board feel strongly also that there is a lot of pent-up opportunity and pent-up demand. So hopefully we will see that in the second half of the year, and I fully expect it to roll into 2022 as well. There's been a lot of significant momentum, as you'd expect, towards cloud and hybrid cloud, just because there was a need to accelerate a lot of the work effort during the pandemic. So we saw that. I expect we will continue to see it. From a headwind perspective, I think we're all aware, because it's a worldwide issue, that there are potential supply chain constraints that we need to be aware of. I don't know if how much of that is hype, how much of it is real. I think we've got a plan on it being real. And the other item that I think we are experiencing, especially within the technology industry, is there are talent shortages, in a market with a lot of demand. And you couple that with, the rumor that there is an expected increase in general in post-COVID job shift. Those are a couple concerning things. I don't want to borrow trouble, but we need to be aware of them. Go to the next slide, please. I hope that many of you know about the practices that we've launched from the first day, of business 25 years ago. We've built the company on the fundamental belief that our deeply skilled and specialized technical personnel are a unique differentiator for Evolving Solutions, and that they truly set us apart from our competitors. I understand I'm biased, but I believe that our team members are some of the best in the business in their specific domain, and we've demonstrated that by a lot of the work that we've done for our clients over the past 25 years. I will also say that regardless of how small or how large our clients' businesses are, there are technologists on our team who can add complementary value to your own team. That is really, one of our charges, and as we grow our business, is to not supplant your team, but to complement and augment the capabilities that you all have. The launch of our business practice over the past 2.5 years is really a continuation of that fundamental objective, whereby we now have those same deeply skilled design architects and delivery specialists in the new practice areas to augment the skills we've always possessed in our core business. At last count, I believe the number is 25 or 26 people that we have added to the company inside of our business practices, really to fit into our overall strategy around hybrid cloud, but also to really enable and support our core business as well. So I'll move through these pretty quickly, and we can dig down deeper into them after the event. But in 2018, in the fall, October of 2018, we launched Kiva. Kiva is a separate organization from Evolving Solutions, an affiliate company that is a wholly owned subsidiary of Evolving Solutions. Kiva is designed and purpose-built to work on automation, orchestration opportunities, API integration, cloud migration, DevOps services, and IP development. And we are busy on the Kiva front doing all of those things, adding people as fast as we can. In fact, if there's a limiting factor, it is hiring good, talented individuals. In January, February, March, first quarter of 2019, so about 6 months after we launched Kiva, we embarked on a hybrid cloud initiative. And that was really taking a step back and building our personal hybrid cloud vision from scratch. And I'll show you a slide that really represents that a couple after this one. But we sat back and really didn't look at anything else. We just, from talking to our clients, talking to our technologists internally, talking to our salespeople, we built out what we considered, again, our hybrid cloud platform and our hybrid cloud vision. And all of that is really designed to, help our clients, and we say meet them where they are on their journey. In February of 2020, we launched the Enterprise Monitoring and Analytics practice, and that also has grown significantly over the past 15 months. And just a couple items that are, good sweet spots for the Enterprise Monitoring and Analytics practice. I mean, we are looking for any clients that are challenged with an application that isn't providing the end user experience that is being expected. And that can be an internal client of an organization or an external client in the case of a bank which has a financial application. There's also a significant opportunity in the market to replace legacy infrastructure monitoring. And I mean, the example that comes to mind is think SolarWinds. I mean, that's one that's top of a lot of people's mind, but in reality, there are a lot of monitoring tools that are out there in many client environments. Some are not used. Some are used but not fulfilling the functionality that they need. But there is a tremendous opportunity in that space. Moving on to what we term modern networking. That was just launched 3 months ago, and we brought on 8 of the most talented, in my mind, and again I'm biased, individuals from the market that from in some cases they were business partners, in other cases they were from manufacturers, and these are some of the characteristics that we're trying to achieve. Really, multi-cloud enabled, software-defined environments. We are working with clients an end-to-end zero trust. We are working to develop and really implement automated and API-driven environments. And also from a security standpoint, there's a lot of depth around it within this group around security, just consistent security and core to edge to cloud security. Go to the next slide, please. So I want to talk about this slide for just a moment. And this slide came about from a group of our architects together talking about cloud and challenging each other, and the the discussion amongst architects and our technical resources oftentimes gets the voices in the room go up. And finally, one of them said, hey guys, cloud is not a place, cloud is a set of disciplines. And we have really lived by that mantra. If you think of it, if someone is talking about a cloud as a repository, an endpoint, a place where you're going to store your data, I mean, that is okay down the road, but the process to begin with should be defining a set of disciplines that you are going to follow and identify in order to get to that place. And the disciplines can be different for all of you than they are for us or other clients, but we use this anytime we are discussing cloud with a client or even internally. We bring this up and go to situations where we ask why, and finally we get to a place where we've got the disciplines established that are needed for our clients to move forward. Be happy to discuss that in greater detail at some point. Next slide, please. So believe it or not, this slide is from the technology update from this event at the TP of the Twin Cities on July 14th, 2013. So literally 8 years ago right now. I went back and I was looking at different presentations, and I recall the many conversations that I had with clients and how eye-opening and insightful those conversations were just around this slide. At the time, again, I'm going back 8 years, there was a lot of passion around cloud versus the pride that some leaders had in their on-premise infrastructure. The discussions range from we are never going to go to the cloud to we are going to be 100% in the cloud in X number of years. And I will tell you this, that all of the clients I recall speaking with, and I look back, all of them right now are using some element of public cloud and in some manner, and frankly, none of them are 100% in the cloud. So either they are hybrid or they are moving toward a hybrid environment, but they still have on-premise equipment as well as leveraging the cloud. Could be for test dev or QA or something like that, but they're definitely doing it. And if you look at the bullets here, they're really quite accurate, as they were just calling out challenges which existed at the time, combined with the forecast that large infrastructure partners were going to create offerings which would become part of the simplification of hybrid cloud offering. And I really think that it's interesting how accurate this is. The one thing that could be questioned, the first bullet under infrastructure innovation, that 50% of business workload will still be on premise in 2020. I heard last year when I was talking, I was at a conference in New York City, that was between 20 and 30%. Now I know that gets measured different ways, and when I say 20 to 30%, 20 to 30% of it was actually moved to the cloud. 70 to 80% still existed in on-premise client-owned data centers or third-party hosting facilities. The last two bullets there I think are very appropriate in that the manufacturers have done a great job, I think, of packaging their solutions to really simplify the transition to hybrid cloud, whether it be in the containerization, microservices, just building technology in there that is an outcome of the deployment of one of their specific products. Go to the next slide, please. This is a slide that was one of the significant outputs of our 2019 hybrid cloud transformation initiative. And I'm not going to go through every one of these icons. I'm going to talk more in generalities about hybrid cloud and what we see that meaning, and maybe how we're involved with clients to an extent. To create this slide, I mean, we pulled together a team of internal technologists that I like to talk about, the smart guys, and walk through the logical steps that a client would take as they progress on their journey, understanding that all hybrid cloud solutions contain the same foundational components. In this case, modern platforms, yet the business outcomes often desired are quite different. And while many businesses are well down the road on their journey, others are still trying to define or maybe refine their goals. And depending upon their primary business objectives, where they are on their journey, and their internal capabilities to facilitate their hybrid cloud, we really focus on helping clients demystify hybrid cloud, because it gets overcomplicated pretty quickly, and there are many businesses who tried to initially deploy a hybrid cloud and it was successful and they stopped. I would submit that it's a lot simpler to do today than it was maybe when they tried. There are so many positive benefits that a business can realize from the successful deployment of a hybrid cloud, but we found that it can get a bit overwhelming regardless of how far along they are on their journey. And that's just the interesting part of it. It's not just people that are starting, is really all over the map. People are challenged, and depending upon the business value that the company is trying to achieve, be it a greater data security, improved innovation, more business agility, greater scalability, accelerated time to market, being nimble and having the ability to adapt in real time is critical. Many of the technology investments that businesses have built over the years likely still exist today. Think of those modern platforms, but they may reside in the cloud and they may reside on premise, or a combination of the two. Really, in order to maximize those existing investments, we believe as an organization that a business will have to have some domain expertise in that middle layer or modern operations. Internal skills or access to skills in these areas are both very important. Many of our recent investments in people and practices have been made in part to support our clients' desires to leverage hybrid cloud technologies. Our EMA team, our modern networking and security team, our Kiva team, all of which I've just talked about, all of those practices have an integral role in helping our clients on their hybrid cloud journey. Our core business really sits at in the modern platform area there. Our modern networking, our enterprise monitoring analytics, and Kiva sit in that modern operations space. And to a large extent, it's Kiva up in the modern development. However, Evolving Solutions and Kiva participate in a quite a synergistic effort pretty much across the board in all of these. So I said that I wouldn't get too deep into this. So hopefully what I shared there was helpful. Services spread between both the data center and the public cloud do require capabilities, if you think about it, such as monitoring and more sophisticated network planning, as the data is really moving between a private and a public cloud, and that we've never experienced that before, or it's just become much more prevalent, I guess, better stated. To the extent that I mentioned on the previous slide, companies and manufacturers of infrastructure, companies like IBM, Red Hat, and NetApp, amongst many others, have made massive strides in reducing the complexity of hybrid cloud design and deployment. However, even though that technology is available today, and it's much simpler to use, much simpler, complexity still exists across hybrid cloud platforms in designing and deploying a hybrid cloud. As a result, there are often skills gaps between what a business has internally and what is required to effectively deploy and deliver a hybrid cloud to meet their business needs. You know, helping our clients overcome their architectural complexities, their security complexities, their networking complexities, their monitoring complexities, and even troubleshooting complexities as they deploy their hybrid cloud strategies is really where the Evolving Solutions team shines. You know, a few closing thoughts for the day. I believe that having a hybrid cloud strategy has never been as important to a business as it is today. I even say that it's critical to the business success. I mean, the good news is that most businesses are no longer struggling to define a direction. Instead, it seems that most really have devoted enough resources, not all, but most, enough resources to their hybrid cloud strategies to move the needle on that maturity spectrum. You know, sticking with their strategy and leveraging new tools, technologies, and specialized resources available today will ultimately determine their long-term success. So thank you very much to our clients, to our vendors, and the employees of Evolving Solutions in Kiva. You were all instrumental in helping us come out of the pandemic a stronger company. We want to believe that we were also instrumental in helping our clients and our partners emerge as stronger businesses as well. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Jamie, thank you for joining us and for sharing your thoughts and observations and viewpoints on our transformation and how we can support our clients. So appreciate you being here today. I enjoyed all of our viewers to join us in watching this brief video as we transition to our next session.
We started as a business who provided recertified technology solutions to clients, and there were many other companies doing that. In 1996, we differentiated ourselves by wrapping deep technical skills around the recertified product, and we're able to deliver that incremental value to our clients. The word solutions, although today it's ubiquitous with the technology industry, at the time it wasn't. And you look at the word evolving, and at the time we knew there was going to be change, but we didn't have any idea at the pace at which that change was going to occur. When we look at the business today, we wanted a name that was enduring, that wasn't going to get old in 5 years or 10 years. And the name Evolving Solutions, it was. Achieving a 25-year milestone is significant, and that longevity speaks to the business decisions that we have made over the course of that time, and in many cases aligned with the business decisions that our clients have made. It speaks to longevity and business partnership. I want to take a moment to thank all of our clients for your support and enablement of our success over the past 25 years. It has been a wild and successful ride together, and we look forward to the next many years together.
Welcome back, everyone. I would like to introduce our next speaker. Paul Zagopoulos is the Vice President of the IBM Technology Unit, where he leads skills development and enablement for thousands of IBMers around the globe. Paul is an award-winning professional, writer, and speaker who has deep expertise in the areas of artificial intelligence and big data. Paul has been named to dozens of experts to follow and influencers lists. And Paul has written over 21 books and over 360 articles during his accidental 26-year career as a data nerd. Paul, I read all 360 of them before today, and they were all fantastic. So awesome job. Paul is, takes a very active role in his community, really helping around coding for veterans, workplace inclusivity, higher ed, women in technology. And I love this statement about Paul. Paul knows that on his dumbest days, he's never as dumb as he feels. And on his smartest days, he's never as smart as he feels either. So welcome, Paul. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
Bo, listen, I appreciate it too, and it's a pleasure to talk to everyone, but I have to tell you, if you read all of those articles, then I kind of feel a little sorry for you. But that said, you probably learned a lot about data in there or saw what I had to say. Folks, it's a privilege to be here with you all. And I really want to talk to you about the other side, of course, the other side being as we move ahead out of COVID recovery into the next normal, the new abnormal, or the return to normal. And listen, there are a number of things that I could ask you to be thinking about. What I really wanted to focus on in this presentation were 3 things that everybody should be thinking a little about, and they're probably on your agenda, but maybe I want to give you like the thing to look around the corner, or 1 or 2 bits of extra stuff that not everybody is thinking about in those particular areas. So let's get started. This really all starts about what I call who are the thrivers, divers, and the new arrivers. And you know all these people in the post-COVID era. And if there's one thing that I believe COVID taught business, is that most people weren't nearly trodden down the modernization path that they thought they were. A lot of folks thought they were modernized, they weren't. And these are some big household name companies. And those to me were kind of the divers, right? And yet we saw these thrivers and new arrivers of new business models and companies you didn't realize were so agile. And what did they have going for them? They were modernized on the way they build applications and the way they deploy them. Michael's Craft Store was amazing. I'm in Canada, but when they shut down all the stores, within 2 weeks, those folks had curbside pickup and synchronized inventory for what was in the store and what was on the website. There are still big box stores that don't have that today. And so it's really a reset. And as we come out of COVID, the very 3 things I'm going to talk to you about today, which is AI, security, and hybrid cloud, are getting so much attention because some of it is, well, what happens if a COVID returns? But some of it is also buying behaviors and habits have changed. Record malware attacks during COVID, especially in healthcare. So really, I think the digitization or expectations from consumer to provider has aged a decade in the 2 years that we were in COVID. And so let me start with the first thing I want you to think about around cloud. I want you to start thinking about cloud as a capability, not a destination. You see, it's an operational model, and so many clients I've talked to solely talk about public cloud, even some IBMers, public cloud, but think about it. What are the benefits of the cloud? Agility, elasticity of cost, resource, modernization and application with cloud native, so being able to deploy microservices. Why would I not want that for my on-premise environments too? And so thinking about cloud as a capability, as opposed to a destination, unlocks enormous value and opportunity that you can capture in this journey to cloud, especially for large enterprises. And that's really the premise behind the cloud. And as I step back with leaders in business and technology, I really try to get them to classify their projects into things that make sense and compartmentalize how they're going to move the business forward. And we start looking at modernization and the investments in IT. Honestly, I think I can simplify it for everyone. You're either spending money to save money or you're spending money to make money. Everything you do is in there, even security, right? I mean, when you're putting regulatory compliance in place or making sure you can pass audit, you're avoiding fines or you're avoiding a loss of reputation and revenue because of that. And so if we go on those 2 paths, in terms of modernization and cloud, we could kind of figure out 4 categories in which I want you to think about putting your journey in modernization into play. And the reason for this is it doesn't matter whether it's AI, whether it's cloud or security, everybody steps up and they try to hit the quote unquote home run. And that's not how you create enormous progressions. I've seen many of big data and AI projects fail because they feel they have to hit a home run. So this is your like first, second, third base and home plate, and how do you get going? And if we look at these 4 categories in which I want you to think about where do we place our different projects, you can look at legacy, replatform, repackage, refactor. On the far right is refactor. These are microservice applications. In this era, you actually don't create applications, if you will, or compile, you compose them. And that is the ultimate on the right side. But we still have our monolithic applications, and maybe we want to go and get some benefits. Like, how do I spend money to save money on monolithic applications? Maybe they're running an IBM I, an AIX. I host them in the cloud with 0 code changes. And see, the problem many customers are facing today when they look at renovating, which is spending to save, and innovating, which is spending to make, is their return curve looks something like this. So flat, they're not getting the best benefit that they could in the renovation phase because quite frankly, some of them are misguided. They're over-rotating and trying to get to the home run on the far right when that's not what they need for certain applications. And I think what makes me so proud of Bo and the team at Evolving Solutions when I talk to them when we work with clients is this focus is really about compartmentalizing your journey, but bending the yield curve so that your renovations are going to pay off better than the renovations that have been paying off so far for you. That could be compression with storage. That could be, like I said earlier, lifting an application up to the IBM cloud, running IBM I with zero code changes, and use the benefits of the renovation to fund the innovation. And there's certain apps that you want to keep on the innovative side and other apps that you want to make sure are running to run your business. And I think that's really key. And behind this journey from left to right is this theory of containerization. Now, let me put it in perspective, as some of you will know containers, maybe some of you don't. I want you to think back to your Java days. Back in Java, it was write once and run anywhere. Now, for those of you who've been around long enough, you'll know how Java turned out. Write once and test everywhere. You see, Java was all dependent on this JDK, which had all kinds of operating system dependencies, and every time I changed the JDK, something didn't work. I lived this life with customers. Stuff would break all the time. And this is what containers are all about. But you see, containers are nothing new to society. I want you to think back to the early 1900s. If you ever watched the movie Titanic, you'll see them loading the ship in these cargo nets. And indeed, that's how we used to load cargo. Inefficient, what it was in there, leakage between the products within there. And Malcolm McLean invented the shipping container, a standardized container that was independent and then could build as blocks into a vessel to move inventory all over the world. And so if we think back to application development, you can see here, maybe I have a bunch of APIs. Remember, I'm composing applications. Well, now instead of having these APIs be dependent and infect each other and not understand when they'll slip through the sides of that cargo net or not, we're confident that we can containerize our applications. And this will transform your data center. You are moving, as you go left to right in that evolution curve we talked about, from machine-oriented application or machine-oriented to application-oriented. And the key here is a clean decoupling from underlying environments. Now, some of you are down this path and some of you haven't started. Wherever you are on that journey, teaming with Evolving Solutions, looking at the IBM technology, Red Hat OpenShift container platform is a tremendous opportunity to get started or to accelerate what you've already started. But for those of you who haven't gone all in on containerization yet, look at what it did to the shipping industry. It reduced costs by 90%. It revolutionized shipping. Now, I don't often declare many inflection points, if you will, in technology. But in my 27 years, this is one big inflection point. And I think that the big piece to start here, what I'll say to all you technology leaders, no drift. You see, they're based on these fixed image layers with only the base OS necessary. So way more lightweight than a VMware, right? Which couples the operating system. So now think about when I take an outage, how fast can I get back up and running? Not having to reboot the whole thing and all this unnecessary pieces of the OS. So I got the core OS and the necessary code. And this creates what we call an immutable infrastructure. You can't change it. And it's decoupled the app from the runtime and the OS. And this is extremely important for portability, resiliency, and agility. And those are containers. And then as you kind of modernize again from monolithic to native cloud services, we need an orchestration engine. And Mesos was an orchestration engine. There were a couple others. The world has settled on Kubernetes, otherwise known as K8s. And I want you to think of what K8s really is. This is like your Nest thermostat at home, right? It's a intent framework. You set the temperature and a whole bunch of stuff goes in the background to get to that temperature. So for your containers, which contain your applications, that might be a certain level of scalability, a certain level of resiliency or sharding. Something goes down in the background, all this stuff works to get it going. This is enormous in terms of operations. You see, it's one thing to get modernized, it's one thing to containerize, but we have to be thinking about resiliency and how do we run stuff in the background. Now, your kid could come here and turn this to 98 degrees on a hot summer day, and that's what the Nest thermostat will do. But it is an orchestration by intent, right? A declarative one, if you will. And this is critical. This is what Kubernetes is all about. But Kubernetes is open source. And, you know, in my history, I wrote the book Hadoop for Dummies, for example. I can tell you, open source, it ain't easy. It ain't for the faint of heart. I came from the dev lab, so I loved it. Some of my buddies, we loved getting down and working around with open source stuff. When I looked at the banks trying to get Hadoop going, it took 3 months. 8 months later, they realized it didn't have any value. And so out of the box open source is hard. And what I think Kubernetes needs is something to make it easier and more hardened for the enterprise. So when I look at a base level Kubernetes, well, it's missing CI/CD tooling, right? Continuous integration, continuous deployment. Application services. What about storage? Pre-work for access, surface area lockdowns. And so what IBM has done with OpenShift Container Platform is created an enterprise hardened Kubernetes system that is full of what I'll call opinions. And strong opinions are what we know work for the enterprise. And that is Red Hat OpenShift Container Platform. And once you build to there, unlike Java, so it's open source Kubernetes, hardened for the enterprise, then it doesn't matter whether you're running on public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, on-premise. It's all the same. In fact, I'll tell you, all this talk, if you remember when the internet came out, we had the intranet, the extranet, the internet. It's just the internet. That's what cloud's going to be. Public cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, on-premise, just cloud. Because hybrid will mean any app, anytime, anywhere, and even on the edge. And that is the value prop of this Kubernetes system. Now, the Red Hat acquisition is very interesting because they're really invested in the kind of key applications or the key frameworks, if you will, that are behind a modernized cloud approach. And another one is Ansible. And I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with Ansible, but I'll keep it somewhat brief. But this is a standard approach to IT automation. Automation is very key. And it's a single platform framework that works for orchestration, configuration, deployment across all endpoints. So we were working with one client who said, you know, I have tons of Power AIX servers and I don't have the admin staff. I'm trying to attract them. And once they went to an Ansible deployment model to set up configurations, surface area lockdowns, it was all automated for them. They would write their intents in a YAML file, and then they would deploy that engine and it would go and get us up to speed. And now you have an administrative framework that works across x86, Z endpoints, Power endpoints. Consistent automation. This is all about that fancy word you hear of playbooks. And that saves a heck of a lot of training time. It frees up time for IT to pursue higher value projects. I want you to make sure you're looking at this because you can really spend money to save money here and then put that to your innovation phase. And when I talk about opinions, so my daughter rides a horse and we drive a truck to move that horse around and that kind of stuff. I don't know if you've ever backed up a horse carriage or a boat maybe, but this is pretty common in the world. I've done this to 3 cars. None of them were my own, right? Used to cost about $800 to $1,000. Now with all the sensors on cars today, that's probably a $2,000 repair, famously known as the jackknife danger zone. And that's how I feel open source is. Like, it doesn't matter the project I've been on. Just straight out open source, you better be investing in a lot of folks who know the deep, deep details, but that doesn't get me to the business value. And I think really what we're delivering at IBM and what we're trying to do with this opinionated stack, like I talked about, Ansible, Red Hat OpenShift Container Platform, default surface area, configuration lockdowns, and so forth, is just to try to make it simple. So in my truck today, we had to buy this. My wife said, like, there's no way you're backing up a truck with your record. You just move this little knob on our Ford truck, and I don't know what kind of magic is going on, but it just takes care of it. And this is really where you're trying to drive your businesses at. That's how you follow and focus on higher value. Now, here's the thing with thrivers, divers, and new arrivers. Here's the thing with digitization, and here's the thing with containerization. We have to really start thinking resiliency, right? We have to really rethink what resiliency means, because in the cloud native environment, I'm going to tell you folks, things get way better for agility and delivery for development, but boy, oh boy, do things get interesting from a resiliency perspective. And so you think about the eras as you move from monolithic through those paths I showed you to cloud native, right? And let's say you're looking for the letter P. P is in problem. In a monolithic application, even if it's a two-tier, I have my DB2 here, my web server there, the letter P shouldn't be too hard to find. Go and grab some stack traces, I go figure out what the offending part is and what the call is. And then I move to service-oriented architecture, which would break down pieces of logic into discrete components. So I've started to compose my apps, but they're usually co-located on the same server. So things get more complex. But in cloud native, folks, you're literally instrumenting potentially hundreds of microservices, some of which are a category called function as a service. Now, function as a service are very discrete pieces of logic. They're serverless computing. You call it out, comes back, and it runs in no more than 10 seconds and often sub-seconds. So imagine now finding letter P, because that's what it looks like. We've got all kinds of great agility going on for development, but observability is very difficult. If I look at Amazon, for example, their front page, that front page probably has 380, perhaps more web services. So how do you figure it out, especially if it runs for half a second? And we need tooling to figure out that I'm as the end user, I got my app, I press a button, what piece of code is that calling? And in a distributed environment, it may not even be in my personal cloud. It might be in one of the 3 cloud vendors that I deal with, public, or it might be on-premise in my private cloud. And so that's very key. And so one of the things that we've been doing at IBM here is really driving forward a hybrid cloud and AI strategy. And everything we really do is around what you see at the top in these orbits. Do we predict? Think about building AI and infusing it at scale in your enterprise. And of course, one of the subcomponents of AI is automation. What I just talked about, observability, is automation for IT. The other big opportunity in here is automation for business. Robotic process automation. And when people hear RPA, they're thinking robot. No, these bots are like bots running in the background for your application. There's enormous efficiency here for you to spend money to save money in this automate space. I just want you to be thinking, how do we do automation for IT and for business? And security, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. All of this modernized in containers. And that's what we're delivering in our software, this modernized container. And of course it has to run. I asked you to rethink about resiliency. Resiliency in the cloud, but also on premise, because I will run cloud, OpenShift container platform applications on premise. And systems like Z and Power and the storage need to be enterprise hardened. Why? The path to modernization says more density of containers, right? They're more lightweight, I can flip them up. So that means I'm gonna have more and more applications hosted on a server in a cloud native manner. More applications, downtime, that's a problem. Performance, that's a problem. Security breakage, that's a problem because I have access to more containers. So like in Power 10, for example, they announced a lot of protection on the memory across cross-container, if you will, contamination. So this is vital that the infrastructure powers the environment that you're running. You have to rethink into those things. And built on this are the 4 components of what I call cloud native, right? OpenShift container platform, which is Kubernetes, but hardened for the enterprise. So you've got those 2 together, Docker and Ansible. These are the 4 pieces that get you to the right side of that chart we talked about. And all the software we're working towards and talking about into that orbit above is really based on these things called cloud packs. And I call this the core IBM strategy. Cloud packs on OpenShift, on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, also hardened for the enterprise, and then hardened for the enterprise again with what I think is a pedigree that IBM has extremely expertise with. I'll talk a little bit about security in the cloud. Just look at the security experience we have in Z, and you'll understand why we're driving the most secure cloud in the world. And in terms of density, you can look at the runtimes. On the left is Power, on the right is Z, right? You're just getting more containers per core. These are very great opportunities to spend money to save money on the renovation. When I talked about that yield curve going like this and like that, that's what you're seeing, right? Whether it's database, whether it's native OCP. And on the Z side, you know, less cores needed, lower licensing costs. Great opportunity to take this money and drive it forward into the modernization of your applications. And you know, it's not just IBM talking about this, because IDC has come out with this thing called a qualified performance indicator. And I'm really glad they did, because what it is this aggregate of different measures that look at power, pricing, so power consumption is key, pricing, density, as a unified performance score. And I'm really proud of the numbers I'm seeing out of the Power platform, this Power 9. It's going to get even better in Power 10. It's all about less cores to drive more work, comparatively speaking. And I think that's the kind of stuff you need when you want to drive cost savings, but performance as well in this container dense environment. I think maybe the last thing I'll talk to you on cloud about is this concept of distributed cloud. You know, I keep telling you, right? We keep coming up with these new names: cloud, private cloud, public cloud, community cloud. What's this? Hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, distributed cloud. We'll call it cloud, but I will say distributed cloud really understands that vendors, choose multiple cloud providers. Okay, that's the core of the thing. And that our cloud services need to get to different physical locations. That may be on-premise, but that could be on the edge with 5G. And what we need is a consistent management framework around that. You see, maybe I'm running native K8s, Kubernetes. Maybe one team in my large enterprise is doing that on the IBM cloud, another team on Amazon, and another team on Azure. And yeah, it's all Kubernetes, right, Paul? So we all have to create the same cluster in the pods. Yeah, but the interfaces are all completely different. So how do you get your hands around that kind? And that's the corner I don't think everybody's looking around. Centralized management. So write once, run anywhere, but write once, run anywhere, manage from anywhere. And that is around cloud satellite. You're going to hear more about it, but I want you to be thinking about that around the corner in cloud. Okay, so that's number one, and that was cloud. So let's move on to artificial intelligence, which I think is the second thing. I look at our world today. The Internet of Things has become the Internet of everything. Everything has a DNS address. I can't vacuum my house anymore if the Wi-Fi is down, because we have 2 robotic vacuums. It's quite pathetic, actually, when I thought about it the other day. We couldn't vacuum the home. I said, Kel, we got to go out and get a vacuum. But the Internet of everything is going to take a new movement to the intelligence of everything. Again, 5G, AI, to the edge, AI anywhere. And you'll face the same kind of challenges there that people are having in cloud. They step up, try to hit a home run. Let me tell you one thing. AI ain't magic. It's not a magic slipper that you put on Cinderella and she turns into a princess. It takes hard work, okay? And so you got to look at the platforms. And so people don't get too carried away and hyped on AI. I really ask people to start compartmentalizing their projects, just like we did in cloud, around AI. There's 3 things that AI gives your business: optimization, prediction, and automation. And I really want you to think about your AI journey into putting business value projects into each of those. Don't go to where do I want to be to hit the home run. Go look at a business issue, look at a small one, and go solve it into one of these 3 categories. It's a good mental framework for you to work with. And honestly, the combination of Internet of Everything, intelligent everything will completely change models. Imagine insurance underwriting risk at a construction work site, using computer vision to generate hourly reports on your safety record, and then billing you or surcharging you or discounting you based on the hourly report. Maybe it's the half-hour report. So I think you're going to see all kinds of different things going on with AI at the edge, from pricing models to understanding risk analysis, healthcare, you name it. This is going to change our world. But I told you I was here to talk to you about the things around the corner that not everybody talks about. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Deep learning and machine learning performance discussions, everybody talks about GPUs. And listen, I'm in love with GPUs, I have some in the house, but it's all about building my models. But there's a heck of a lot more to the story to be successful at AI that I want to talk to you about. And one of them is fairness. It's about ethics. You see, performance accuracy, and performance is the term that data scientists, nerds use to reflect accuracy. So, performance in a database is how fast can you run, performance is how accurate can you be. But I want to share a story with you around a melanoma cancer. 30-year, every year-over-year rise in incidence in the United States, 5 million cases a year, billions of dollars in cost. You know what? 75% of Americans couldn't see a dermatologist if they tried. And computer vision is a wonderful opportunity here in AI. Think about it. Computer vision can look at and find shape changes, boundary attenuations on a mole. All these selfies that people take, you might just load up some AI into your Instagram account. So every time you say a picture of me, I want you to check the mole and let me know if it's growing or the attenuation is changing. Or maybe it's a healthcare app where I literally take a picture of my daughter's back or my arm, and I take that picture every week and or every month even, and I can see a historical record. I'm telling you, the accuracy of this is on par with experts. We will save time, money, and lives. But explainability and bias are key. If you train your algorithms with bias or wrong data, you get biased and wrong output. And so here's the thing I don't know if everybody realizes. First and foremost, Caucasian survivability of melanoma in the United States is 90%. For Blacks, it's 73%. And I'm sure there's some bias where people think, well, Black people don't get skin cancer, we don't kind of look at that. But it's not true. But look at the models that created those attenuation discovery convolutional neural networks for computer vision I just talked about. The data sets are all white people from Europe. So if we don't develop our AI with inclusivity, fairness, and explainability in mind, we could exacerbate healthcare disparities in dermatology and beyond. That's the corner that everyone is just starting to figure out. Ethics of AI, explainability of AI. And it is coming, folks. You see it in GDPR Article 14. If you get rejected for an application for credit, you have a right to an explanation. And so many companies can't explain how their algorithms work. The famous case of Apple, where a husband and wife, a very famous guy, the founder of Ruby on Rails, applied for credit. They've been married for 22 years, everything in commune. The male got more credit than the female. Apple said, well, it's not our card. They went to the bank who underwrote it. They said, well, we hired this company to do the risk. They said, well, we don't use gender as a feature into the algorithm. Yeah, but a name like Sally is a proxy for gender. No one could explain it. Explainable AI will be critical. That's the corner I want you to think around. The other thing as we talk about training algorithms is you could have the fastest GPU servers in the world, but if you can't get to the data, you have the slowest servers in the world. So storage matters. Getting access to the data. Look, a data scientist's time, 80% of their time is spent on finding and wrangling data. Using things like spectrum scale and distributed file systems like that can really accelerate it, but also moving the data from the disk into the CPU to go talk to the GPU. So I want you to think about that on the storage side. And then here's the other thing around the corner is now everyone's starting to build algorithms. Inferencing, so inference is the fancy word for scoring, it's actually the most time-consuming part of your app that affects the user experience. So you can run all the AI you want, and indeed, we're moving to a world where companies have 10, 20, 30 algorithms. They'll have thousands of algorithms in the next day. They will be running this AI. So inferencing is going to be a key thing. And the long-term inference costs can completely dwarf upfront training costs, right? But the whole world is focused on all these GPUs or TPUs can make us run so much faster. And I really like what the Power 10 team have done is create this acceleration around inferencing natively within the Power 10 processor. And I think that's going to be a trend. I think you're going to see a movement away from ASICs and accelerators in that area because we have to embed it within the app and run closely with other processing in the app. Otherwise, we create these communication gaps, if you will. So the IBM team took these 4 benchmarks here. They ran them against Power 9, which had GPU for inferencing. and using this kind of matrix multiplication math assist, it was 25 times faster on the inference. And so I think that's going to be a really interesting thing I want you to think about is as we get more algorithms, it won't be about creating them, it'll be about inferencing them. And the final thing on your algorithms, I'll tell you, the moment you deploy your AI project is the moment it's out of date. And so we call that drift. And so you have to think about the manageability of the AI and the resiliency as your business depends on it. One of the things we're doing is really driving these no code, low code, and code centric. So you can bring all of your citizens, your data scientists, no matter their skill level, into the IBM platform and drive AI solutions. And I'll show you a code centric one. No code, you would automate AI, right? You would automate AI and build auto AI. Here is an example of low code where we drag and drop. I built an application here, but I want to show you a coded solution. So here's an example. I'm an R developer and I use Peloton, the bike. And so I'm connecting into Peloton, my bike, using R, coding this up and going and figuring out stats such as percentage of workouts by instructor and so on and so forth. I'll come back to that in a second. But then I have a native Jupyter notebook. So I write this application here. And in that application, I kind of interact wherever I want because, hey, it's a hybrid cloud environment. Maybe I'm working with a team that's using Google on the back end. So I could take that application, upload it to GitHub. When I go into Google Colab, for example, download it, here's my application here, and go and run it. And this is the application I ran. Now, this is going to take you back to explainability of AI. Because what I did was use this AI model called GPT-2 to generate applications and text, and I asked it to write a whole bunch of articles. And I've created this website that we call Palsy News Cycle. And in here are real stories and some stories written by AI. So I'm going to go and look for Bo stories. I fed into the code over here some stories about Bo, that he was convicted of stealing puppies, he was caught lying about growing the world's largest watermelon, all kinds of different crazy stories, all not true. And AI went ahead and created some stories. So here, a collector's life ends in a river, the Atlantic. So it grabbed a picture of Bo, figured out who he was. But look at how this reads. Bo Gebbe was also a compelling voice. He was a professor and director of the Florence art collections for more than 30 years, who in addition to becoming a prolific auctioneer, delivered lectures at New York universities and edited a history of fine arts for the Academy of Art University Centennial in 1989. It goes on as a full article. All of that is fake news, folks. So that's why AI has to be extremely explainable, but hopefully I'm showcasing to you, I come in there, I code, I don't care where the runtime execution engine in this time I actually use Google Colab's GPUs, but I built the application natively here in our code environment. And that Peloton that I showed you before, all that R code, so I went and connected it, then I used my credentials, and then I generated a chart that looked like this. Now what this chart shows in my Peloton is when I work out the most. So now imagine you're a healthcare provider, and I give you discounts on your healthcare and award points as you do exercise, uploaded through Strava, your Fitbit, your Peloton, your Echelon, whatever it was. And maybe I want to figure out the optimal contact time. I mean, this is exactly what banks are doing, right? So you create this relationship and into data. And I was doing that natively on our platform. Now, I know some of you out there are Peloton people, so I'm going to give you a little tip. You can watch Netflix on your Peloton. So when you're a nerd like me, you try to figure out what's the underlying operating system. On Peloton, it's Android. And so if you go to that article, they'll show you how to go and open up the Android browser that's built into the Peloton, hidden. It's not a jailbreak, it's all native. It's just hidden, and you can go and browse the internet when you're Pelotoning around. So deep faking the news with these transformer models, hopefully you realize just how important explainability in AI is going to be. So we got to build it, but we got to be able to explain it. So let me close out and I'll talk about security. So look at the headlines. I mean, I don't need to tell you what's going on. In fact, during COVID, we saw a jump in malware. Obviously, some huge current events going on in the United States in the last couple of months, but healthcare centers and hospitals their malware attacks surged by 20 to 30% during COVID. And that's just downright frightening. And Jamie Dion, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, said a number of years ago, cyber risk is probably the biggest risk to the financial system faces. But if you've been watching the news, they've actually ranked cyber risk above terrorism and threat of nuclear war. So this is the real deal, folks. And it is all about security. And I think what I'll tell you is, am I subject to being hacked, you might add? Where there is data, there's opportunity for breaches and unauthorized access. And when you start looking around at how to secure data in the cloud, I want you to think of the difference between operational trust and technical trust. Operational trust is you going to your CSP, whoever that may be, and saying, I know they're not going to look at my data because they promised me they wouldn't. And if someone compromises my data, they'll tell me about it. It's after the fact. And I trust my team and my partners to implement the right security features. This is operational trust, and it ain't going to cut it. You have to be looking at technical trust, the technology to enforce. You need to be assured that the data is concealed from everybody. And the biggest thing here is they can't access your data even if you wanted to. That's the essence of what we call confidential computing. And I'll give you an example. If I'm the FBI and I have a signed warrant to go and look to the data, and I go to my cloud service provider and I say, give me this data, could they serve the warrant? That's the question to ask every CSP. And if the answer is, yeah, but we wouldn't, because, no, can you physically serve the warrant? Do you have access to the data because you have the keys? The answer is yes, 99% of the time. And I think that's the thing I love seeing what we're driving in our IBM cloud through our experience on the mainframe, and that is with secure enclave, secure service container technology. Even if the FBI is at the door and says, I want to look at that data, I can't get it. We don't have the keys. So that's technical trust. I want you to think about that. And once you think of operational trust and technical trust, I want you to start thinking about trust as a vulnerability. When you trust someone, you're vulnerable. And that is the essence of zero trust. It's not about making a system trusted. It's not at all about that. It's actually eliminating trust. Is you're the sysadmin, I don't trust you. You better go show this, and you do this, and you do that, and I'll log this, and I'll log that. So I want you to start pivoting around the corner to think about trust as a vulnerability. That's how you get to zero trust. That's the third thing that everybody should be thinking about. So I'll finish off with this. A Star is Born. And you're probably saying, well, what's Paul showing A Star is Born here? So if you know this movie, one of Hollywood's hottest actors, Bradley Cooper, sings it live, demands everything live he sings because of the demands of Lady Gaga. Crazy, right? So she said, you're not allowed to auto-tune, you're not allowed to lip sync. This guy took 18 months of singing lessons, 8 months of piano lessons, a year of guitar lessons, a voice coach. He spent 3 years to prep to film a remake in 42 days. That's Hollywood's hottest actor. Folks, for all three things that I just talked about, there's going to be a war on talent. And some of the talent you're going to have to import and have on bench. Good part of that talent you're going to have to partner with, like with Evolving Solutions. And some of the talent you're going to have to upskill. Goes back to my job at IBM. That's my job, to upskill. And my point to you is, if Bradley Cooper, the hottest Hollywood actor around, has to spend 3 years to work for 42 days in a movie, what do you think your investment in skills vitality and your employees need to be to get your hands around the three things that everyone should be thinking about? Skill years are like dog years, folks. So I want you to remember the three things I talked about and think about the skill up plan, not just to upskill, but maintain the skill. And with that, I appreciate your time, and I'll turn it back over to you, Bo.
Paul, thank you. That was fantastic. And I wrote down a bunch of notes here. I learned a lot here around AI and around cloud and your thoughts on security. I'm also very scared that you just created a website about me, so I hope you deleted that.
It's deleted, I promise. It's deleted. Yeah, it's not true. None of it was true.
No, but we appreciate your partnership. We appreciate you being here today, and hopefully we get to see you in person real soon as well. So thank you again.
Evolving Solutions is a company built on core values and a unique culture, and is driven by an incredibly talented team of employees who collectively deliver business value to our clients. We hire by them, we review by them, and we decide who we are going to partner with relative to their alignment to our core values. Our core values of do the right thing, be a team player, and be humbly confident benefit our customers because when we start a job, we're going to finish it, we're going to partner and team with their employees, and we are always going to do the right thing, both from a technical and a human perspective.
Everyone, I am extremely excited to introduce our next topic. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from several of our Evolving Solutions team members on how they're working with our clients every day. To help kick us off and to moderate our session, I'd like to introduce Suzanne Woods. Suzanne joined Evolving Solutions 3 years ago and has many years of experience in the technology industry across a variety of marketing, sales, and leadership roles. In her current role, Suzanne is responsible for our company's revenue generation strategies and leads what I must say is a fantastic team of sales professionals who get the opportunity to work with our clients each and every day. Prior to joining our company, Suzanne was most recently the Director of Sales at IBM, where she was responsible for the commercial distribution market across the United States for the entire IBM portfolio. Suzanne is passionate about the development of the next generation of talent, and so she spends a lot of her time mentoring and coaching the next generation of tech talent throughout the Midwest. Suzanne, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Bo, and good morning, everybody. I'm just going to say I have the best job in the world because I work with the greatest team. Thank you to our audience for joining us again. And as Bo said, with me today, I have several of our team members, and we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the Evolving Solutions approach to what I lovingly refer to as the modern data center, and really the disciplines required in this new world. But before we get started, let's just finish up with introductions. We're going to just go around the slide. So Julian, we're going to start with you.
Sure. My name is Julian McRoy. I'm a solutions architect with Evolving Solutions. I have over 20 years of experience in the networking industry, the last 10 years of which I've been very much focused on data center and software-defined networking. I joined the network practice at Evolving Solutions earlier this year. The prior 7 years, I worked for Cisco Systems, where I was helping enterprise customers realize and execute on some of the promises of software-defined network.
Great, thank you. Jordan.
Hello, I'm Jordan Gador. I'm the sales specialist for the Enterprise Monitoring and Analytics Practice Group, and our focus and really our core charter is to help large organizations improve and mature their monitoring, and that includes the products, the process, and the people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jordan. Jen.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jennifer Kynath, and I recently joined the Evolving Solutions team. And over the past 15 years, I've supported clients large and small, global and regional, with their toughest business challenges, such as networking, modern day applications, and infrastructure.
Thank you, Jen. And last, of course, but not least, Phil.
Hi, my name is Phil Fisichella. I'm an enterprise architect for Evolving Solutions. I have over 25 years of IT experience, and actually over the past decade, a lot of global experience transforming our clients' applications and infrastructure in their modernization journeys to become more agile.
Thank you, Phil. And I'm going to jot some things down as we talk here. But to get us started, Jen, I'm going to go to you first. You mentioned that you have worked with many large and small organizations. You're one of our recent additions to the team. Why did you join Evolving Solutions? What was the draw?
So I joined Evolving Solutions because they have an outstanding reputation helping their clients solve their toughest business challenges. We've heard from clients and potential clients across different verticals at what resonates the most is their similarities and their challenges across the stack, including their momentum to a cloud-centric environment. This requires a partner like Evolving Solutions that continues to invest in their journey where it matters most with our vision is centered on modern operations and future-proofing their environments. That's really what drew me to Evolving Solutions. Suzanne.
Well, thank you. And of course, Jen, we are thrilled to have you on the team. So I'm going to move this over to you. Jen mentioned modern operations. Can you share a little bit with our audience just what we mean at Evolving Solutions when we talk about modern operations?
Absolutely. You know, businesses today are transforming, and this requires IT to transform with it. This transformation is really what we're talking about when we refer to modern operations. We all need to be more agile to accommodate for this. This all circles around that modern operations, such as DevOps, etc. There's two challenges I see with modern operations, and that's in skills and tools. This can be exciting and stressful from the skills perspective. Learning and adapting to the new landscape is not only relevant for IT, but it requires IT to support that transformation as well. From a tools perspective, there's new tools and enhanced tools that we need to adapt to as well to support this agility and getting into the hybrid cloud as well. For IT, this really means that we need to deliver principles in new ways. Our operational principles are going to stay the same. However, it's delivered in different ways. It's delivered by hybrid cloud adoption. This could be not only in your data center, but also public cloud, multi-cloud. It all has to act the same and feel the same to your end users and developers. This also includes enhancing data protection, modern networking, automation, and also, but not least of which, is monitoring, enterprise monitoring and analytics. We really need to understand not only what's going on today, but have some predictive items in there so that we can predict before things get bad, they can be addressed so they don't turn into outages.
So let me make sure that I understand what you said. When we talk about modern operations, it's really that set of operational disciplines required in this modern data center or the hybrid multi-cloud world. And I jotted down some things when Paul was speaking. He actually said that cloud is a capability, not a destination. Did I get that right?
That's absolutely correct. It's a set of disciplines in my mind. We should be treating all of our environments as if they're cloud, just about. This way our end users have that ability to perform at the highest levels. And it's really all about that adaptation to deliver the same service levels with new tools, processes, and environments.
Great. Thank you, Phil. Jordan, Phil referred to talent and tools and potentially talent shortages. You and I, before the session started, talked a little bit about talent and tools as a couple of the key factors in the monitoring or observability world. What is required these days to support overall user experience from a monitoring perspective?
Yeah, I think really what we continue to see is that IT departments are under tremendous pressure to modernize quickly, yet still sort of held responsible for maintaining their existing systems, and yet budgets and headcounts have remained flat or have decreased, right? So progress and transformation won't happen unless there's a comprehensive strategy and an approach related to monitoring and observability. And ultimately, data, we feel, fuels transformation, yet when it's incomplete or it isn't there or it's inaccurate, which oftentimes is the case, and we hear from our customers, it's those expensive engineering resources that get pulled to solve these problems versus, they should be spending time doing what they were hired to do, which is to develop and to innovate, really. And so this issue is certainly exacerbated by the increase in complexities that come with sort of modern initiatives, right? Modern app development and containerization, cloud migration, and microservices. And so, we see our clients are asking for assistance, like how do we navigate this new world? And it's certainly a challenge that we see sort of day in and day out. And how do we help them increase the value of their current tool investments? How do we consolidate sort of these legacy tools and develop really an observability roadmap that they can execute not only to today, but years in the future? And that will allow them to really automate these high value workflows. And in turn, what that does is it automates the experiences and capabilities that define their brand and differentiate their value proposition. And so I think more complexities don't mean you need more tools, which we oftentimes see is the case. And you just need the right tools and as few of them as possible for what is required. And so more tools doesn't often translate to more visibility. It often means just an increase in an ever expanding sort of mountain of data that operations and engineers have to parse through when an inevitable issue arises. And so it's really sort of this interesting paradox we see today is organizations have more tools and more data at their disposal and at their fingertips, and yet the number of outages and the duration to resolve those outages are trending upward and not downward. So what we see is the complexities, the duration of outages, the frequency of outages, and additionally sort of this lack of sort of monitoring expertise at these organizations certainly have an impact. And that's typically because monitoring isn't necessarily a career path, heavily sought after, right? It's typically an assigned sort of stepping stone. And that's why we've invested heavily in resources and expertise in monitoring and observability to sort of fulfill that gap in the market for our customers. And so with the deep technical expertise we have on the EMA team, our charter is to help organizations mature their monitoring from really the end user and application monitoring all the way down to sort of the network performance and infrastructure monitoring. And so we're able to help customers sort of with the products and the people and the process. And this allows organizations to really unlock the data to accelerate the business transformation that's so heavily sought after. And so what we see is the relative effort of input for changing this sort of far outweighs the downstream output and what's critically important to meet the demands of today's consumers.
Great, a lot there, but I think we all certainly have been part of a massive outage where there are war rooms, et cetera, and nobody wants to relive that. But Jen, I'm going to go back to you because both Phil and Jordan talked about changes. And are we making this up? When you worked with these clients, as you work with clients, do you really see a world that is changing?
Absolutely. Change is constant, Suzanne. And, I've worked with some of the largest global companies in the world. And one thing that is always resonating is how they thrive and how they survive, especially in IT when it comes to next generation applications and how they continue to improve their customer experience, whether it's internally or externally. And what's most interesting is all of the issues and client challenges that they have really resonate across the stack. So anytime they're looking at infrastructure, it just bleeds into networking, security, and how they deliver applications faster to their customers. That's why it's like so fantastic that we have these practices to help join forces to solve, their biggest challenges.
Great, thank you. So we're not making these changes up. No, that's good.
Absolutely.
Julian, we're going to go to you. We're going to go to talk a little bit about the backbone, the glue, the network that ties everything together. So everybody talked about changes and challenges. Give us your perspective on the impact of all of these on the network and the world of networking.
Absolutely. To really answer that question, I think we have to look at a bit of history in networking, because the networking landscape has drastically changed, specifically over the last decade. I've been in the industry for 21 years. The first 2/3 of that experience was operating network devices at a command line interface box by box. That's the way historically networks have been operated and maintained. The last 7 years, 8 years or so, software-defined networking changed the game. And that came from academia and became something real where there was products that enterprise customers could start purchasing and deploying. around 2014, and that's when it became real. In large part, customers were trying, I always try to simplify and distill things down to the common elements, the least common denominators, to figure out what's the value, right? We don't adopt technology simply for the sake of technology. We have to be solving real business challenges. So from a software-defined networking perspective, customers were focusing largely on 4 things: automation orchestration, right? Any networking platform, software-defined networking solution that did not have a fully exposed northbound RESTful interface was doomed for failure. And so every solution that we've seen hit the market has REST APIs where we can automate the infrastructure from a centralized set of controllers, right? That's a common theme across vendors' products. Another big pillar that customers have focused on is being able to support application resiliency and business continuity. And the best way to do that from a network perspective is multi-fabric, multi-data center solutions, right? To be able to support applications from a network mobility perspective. Another pillar that customers are focused on from an SDN perspective is transforming the operations model to provide superior operational visibility. Jordan was speaking about modern operations and observability, and that's something certainly really important in the network space. And a lot of modern networking solutions have the ability to extract meaningful data out of the fabric, to understand flow telemetry, to find hotspots in the network, and those types of things. The last pillar that I'll point out for software-defined networking is probably the most important, and it's network security and segmentation. And to be, completely honest, most customers are really now trying to solve that. They have taken very simple approaches to SDN, where they just migrated from legacy infrastructure to the new modern approach with automation and multi-fabric solutions, with operational tools. And now they're focusing, they accomplished in many cases those first 3 bullet points, and now they're focusing on security and segmentation. A lot of the projects that I'm actively working on right now are focused on that exact objective. So how does this pivot towards multi-cloud, right? We've accomplished a lot on-prem from an SDN perspective. A lot of customers, most customers, have some type of presence in the cloud, and it's a question on how do I modernize networking? How do I make it so that I have a centralized and cohesive approach to providing networking, whether it's on-prem or if it's in the cloud? That's really the big challenge, I think, of this particular era. Suzanne, you pointed out, the network is the glue that ties everything together. So it's really important that you have a robust strategy around how you deliver network services. We live in an age where business applications are migrating to cloud. They're going to different clouds: AWS, Azure, GCP, so on and so forth. We also live in an age of Internet of Things. So IoT is omnipresent. There's devices that are connecting to networks, to the internet, to enterprise networks in many different ways and kind of across the board. We also, something else to point out is the drastic change in networking just over the last year due to COVID and the global pandemic. So many workers have been forced to work from home, and which this has a drastic change on the dynamics on how networks function. You end up with impacts on the internet edge for enterprise networks where there wasn't necessarily a bottleneck before. So a lot of changes have had to be done in order to facilitate how your end users that are supporting your applications and running the business connect to their applications, whether they're in cloud or whether they're on-prem. So there's a lot of dynamics that are kind of ongoing in this current market. So as we think about how do we, if the goal is to provide a normalized model to be able to provide connectivity, whether I'm on-prem or whether I'm in the cloud, I'm going to distill this down to 3 focus areas, right? The first thing I think a lot of customers are trying to achieve and trying to wrap their heads around right now is providing normalized connectivity. And what I mean by that is I have to have a way, because each one of these clouds have some means of providing connectivity, whether it's across the internet or if we're talking GCI, Express Route, Direct Connect, right? Can I provide a normalized model and use features like network function virtualization to be able to stand up services in minutes and hours as opposed to days and weeks and perhaps even months, right? That's where I come from, certainly in the network industry. It always has taken long to deliver network services. And because of modern technologies, we're able to stand up network services in minutes and hours in meaningful ways, right? So normalized connectivity certainly is one big factor. And the other thing to point out with this too is the providers won't come to you; you have to go to them. So, can I provide a consistent strategy where I'm normalizing connectivity inside of a cloud neutral or cloud or carrier neutral facility to provide connectivity into the public clouds? That's one key pillar. The second area that is an area of focus here is policy orchestration. And so what I mean by that is, if you're operating inside of AWS and Azure and Google and other clouds, each one has its own group-based policy model. They have means by which we can instantiate least privileged network security policies. However, they're all quite different, right? And so you either master each one of these, or perhaps you try to find a strategy that's either one where you develop it yourself or use some of the vendor solutions that are on the market today to be able to provide policy orchestration and standardization. So I have one operating model relative to how I deliver least privileged network security policies across my network, whether it's on-prem or whether it's in public cloud. That's super important as well. And then the last piece is day two operations. Again, back to observability. How can I extract meaningful data, whether that application is running on-prem or whether it's running in the cloud? I need application performance monitoring and some of the stuff that Jordan was referring to. I need to understand what's happening in the network as well. And I need to understand what's happening in the network universally across the board from a data center perspective, whether it's someone else's data center or my own. So all the network technology has evolved over the years, certainly, and some of the situations we find ourselves in, today because of global pandemics and so forth. One thing is consistent. The requirement to provide consistent and reliable network services to applications and to the business has not changed. So the network solutions and strategies have to continue to evolve to meet those current business requirements.
Great, thank you for that, and a lot of information there. But the one thing that I picked up on is, Phil, back to you. Julian mentioned automation a couple of times. Why is automation important?
Automation is very important. It is darn near impossible to do modern cloud operations without automation. That's basically what the cloud is. Most of it's automated, it's self-service. Unless we have things that are automated ourselves and for our clients, it's really just not cost prohibitive. It's not very agile, and the users will feel that difference and that change. Now, automation does not have to be an impossible task. It might look large, but it's not impossible. The reality is you got to start small, get some quick wins, learn from your mistakes, have other consultants from a perspective of their knowledge in that small environment. Once you get those small environments automated and small tasks automated, then you can learn and move to the bigger and larger pieces for that full automation project.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Phil. Well, we have reached almost the end of our time here. So I'm going to summarize just a couple of themes that I picked up on during our conversation. In this world of IT that's ever changing, we need more operational visibility. We need security everywhere, but we also need security built in. We need to unlock the data that we have to provide insights into the operations of our technology infrastructure. And on tooling, be it the network or monitoring, we don't need more tools. We need the right tools to give us insight and support across this continuum of the hybrid cloud or multi-cloud. And just to finish up again, cloud is not a destination, but rather cloud is a set of disciplines, much like we've deployed for many years in IT. So with that, team, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for your participation. And to our audience, thanks for listening to us. With that, Bo, back to you.
Awesome, Suzanne, Julian, Phil, Jordan, Jen, thank you all for participating today. And as you saw this morning, Jamie previewed our kind of hybrid cloud vision at a high level, but I think you all just really in 20 minutes took that to another level of detail and helped us understand, where this all comes together. And I heard many of you talking throughout there, and Suzanne mentioned as well, of, none of this really matters unless we're helping drive a business goal. And I think you all just helped put that together for everyone. So I appreciate you being here. For our audience, I invite you to watch this next video as we transition into our next speaker of the day.
The many strategic partnerships that we've built over the years aren't easy to come by. They require massive technical certifications, technical skills that are required to be renewed year after year. And it was a monumental decision and effort for us to become an IBM business partner. The investments that we had to make in personnel, the things we had to do from a process standpoint were incredibly important. Our IBM business partnership was a launching pad for other relationships such as Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Cisco, Red Hat, NetApp, Nutanix, and many, many others. That led us to between 45 and 50 other business partnerships, which all complement one another and are all designed to be able to deliver an end-to-end comprehensive solution to our clients.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning from some of the Evolving Solutions team members on where we are on our hybrid cloud journey and how we're engaging with clients and investing for the future. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker. Matt Watts is the Chief Technical Evangelist for NetApp. In Matt's role, he provides guidance on NetApp's overall strategy and technology solutions to a wide base of clients in the global business partner community. Matt's also part of the international leadership team at NetApp, and he provides advice and guidance on technology and transformation and helping the organization move forward. Matt is increasingly in demand as a keynote speaker and has a great way of combining his knowledge of the IT industry with some anecdotes, some stories, some humor, some wit, and really helps clients understand technology and where it's going in an easy to understand way. And I think you'll really enjoy listening to him today. Prior to his current role, Matt led significant IT transformation projects for clients around the world. He managed teams of technologists that have helped clients with installations, on-site support, and really helping them oversee their technology transformations, and has managed several significant IT outsourcing contracts for clients. This experience has given Matt a unique ability to understand technology across organizations and across client sets, and really has helped him understand and help clients with their technology transformation. So Matt is joining us live from the UK, and Matt, we appreciate you joining us today, and thank you for being here.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Bo. And yeah, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak to everybody today. And to back up what Bo said, what an eloquent introduction. I spend all of my time with companies, organizations across the world in different industries and with our partners. So a lot of what I want to share with you today is my kind of thoughts, the things that I hear as I meet with all of these different companies, you know, what is kind of happening out there. So, you know, hopefully there'll be something of interest in here for you. But I wanted to start off with thinking about, I call it the kind of pace of change. And as a kind of a technologist, as a bit of a geek, I guess a self-confessed geek, I love watching how fast technology changes. And I think one of my observations over the last few years is that quite often we're so immersed in the day-to-day of what's happening in the IT industry that sometimes we don't truly understand or maybe appreciate just how quickly it's moving. When you're living in this world every single day and things are just naturally progressing, it's not until you step out of it and kind of look back that you suddenly get an appreciation for just how significantly things have actually changed. And I think one of the things I've realized is it's healthy to do that, to step out every so often and think of something that's personal to you. And for me, my personal is this. Now, obviously, this is a music festival, but many of you won't know what music festival this is. It's Glastonbury. This is my spiritual heaven. Glastonbury Music Festival is one of the largest festivals in Europe. It's certainly the largest festival in the UK. And what you're looking at here is a festival of about 250,000 people. Now, for 360 days of the year, this is just a field full of cows. And for 5 days of the year, the festival turns up, 250,000 people turn up, and the festival takes place. Now, I've been going to this festival for, I'm going to admit my age now, but I saw David Bowie headline this festival, so let's leave it at that. But that's not the point of what I wanted to talk about. The point that I wanted to talk about was that going back to the first time I went to Glastonbury, the process to get a ticket, because there wasn't a lot of technology at the time, the process to get a ticket was that they chose a number of different shops, different outlets, and you had a course of probably months in order to find the shops that had the tickets, to go and get your tickets and to secure your place at Glastonbury. And I took about a decade off. The next time that I decided I wanted to go to Glastonbury, it was still the same company doing the ticketing, but this time the tickets went on sale on a Sunday morning, 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and you picked up the phone. And you had probably 2 or 3 days of hitting the redial button, desperately trying to get through to secure that kind of golden ticket for Glastonbury. then I roll forward to the last time I went, which unfortunately was a couple of years ago because of the pandemic that we found ourselves in. But the last time I went, again, the same company ticketing Glastonbury. Tickets went on sale at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, online. By 22 minutes past 9 o'clock on the same Sunday morning, 250,000 tickets have been sold, 250,000 credit card transactions have been processed, and in that 22 minutes, 2.5 million people attempted to get a ticket. This is why we have the cloud. For 22 minutes of the year, this company that ticket Glastonbury, their workload goes to here. And then for the rest of the year, it probably drifts at around 20, 30, 40% of that. So just something as simple as a music festival and the company that ticketed a music festival, as you start to look back over the last 10 or 20 years at how much technology has changed, I think it's little things like that that suddenly make you appreciate this is why we have cloud, different consumption models. This is why we're seeing the pace of change that we're seeing. And it's everything. You know, a very simple example, bring it back down to something very, very concrete, very, very tangible. Today, the largest solid state drive that you can buy, I know this stuff, I'm a geek, part of what NetApp do is storage, of course, but the largest solid state drive you can buy is a 30.6 terabyte solid state disk. We don't call it a 30.6, we call it a 30, because frankly, the 0.6 is a waste of words, it's a rounding error. If I take you back 5 years ago, the largest one you could buy was a 400 gigabyte solid state drive. That is now smaller than the rounding error that we don't even mention on the one that we ship today. We have qualified the 60, 61.2. We know that the 120 will come in the next year, and we will have in the next 2 to 3 years, 1/4 of a petabyte of storage on something the size of your mobile phone. When we're living in this world, this change just happens around us, and I don't know if maybe we appreciate just how significant it is. When you step back, you step out of it, you suddenly start to see the pace of change that we're going through. So what I wanted to talk about in the next sort of 20 minutes was the trends that we're seeing in the industry, some of the things that I'm witnessing, how that's meaning IT is evolving within the companies that I talk to, and a little bit about how I think we can be better prepared for this and how do we plan for this for the future. So I think I've seen 3 significant waves within IT. The job of all of us, especially companies like Evolving Technologies and ourselves, is to look for what do we think the next wave is going to be and what's our role going to be in that wave. And if you get it right, you pick a wave as it's starting to build and you bring value and capabilities and interesting technologies or interesting opportunities into that wave, and you help companies be able to take it on and to be able to benefit from it. The first wave for me, when I came into the IT industry, was very much bare metal infrastructure. And I know the innovation was around speeds and feeds and densities and features and functions. And that wave doesn't go away. It hasn't gone away. We're still seeing companies looking at investing in how do you modernize existing technology platforms. And those characteristics are important when you're thinking about SAP or SAP HANA or Oracle or some of these high performance, highly resilient type applications. But a new wave formed as we came into the 2000s and changed the landscape of IT, and it was virtualization. And all of us, whether that's us as technology vendors or you as consumers and users of technology, moved to focus on that wave because we realized that it could do things for us. It could create efficiency, create agility, new possibilities. And now we're well into the 3rd wave. And the 3rd wave is cloud. And it's cloud in all of its different guises. It's public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid multi-cloud, because we love to smash these terms together and invent new ones to keep you all on your toes. But what we've been doing and what we all have to do is look at, well, what do these waves mean to us? The ones we've been through don't go away, but the ones that are forming are the ones that have the greatest potential for us, that offer us the greatest opportunity. Some of you are probably thinking, is there a 4th wave? I think so. I think it's a little bit early. I think AI is probably the 4th wave. But an aspect of a wave for me is democratization. And until you can truly democratize a capability, a technology, or what it means within a wave, until it's truly democratized, I don't believe it's really a wave that's formed. I think right now AI is getting there. We have the technology. I think we're lacking in the skills to make it something that could be truly accessible to any company in any industry. But watch this space as vendors, as providers, as partners. It's something that we're all looking at. We're all creating solutions around, and with the anticipation that it could well become a wave for the future. And how significant is it? Well, I love putting out analyst quotes and statistics and kind of percentages, and I'll give you this quick caveat. Somebody once said to me, statistics are like a drunk person leaning against a broken lamppost. It feels good for support, but never really sheds any light on anything. So I'm always aware when I show statistics that people can be a little bit skeptical or cynical of them. These are big numbers. So let's assume these are wrong. Let's assume the analysts are 10% out. That's still 83% and 77% of companies looking at multi-cloud strategies or hybrid cloud strategies. And what I think is really interesting about the cloud, and as we've kind of gone through these waves, there are a lot of characteristics that we've dealt with that have kind of been exhibited. In that first bare metal kind of infrastructure wave, it was a lot about consolidation, efficiencies, simplifying management. How did virtualization take off? Many of you would have been there. The reason virtualization took off was it offered the same promise for the servers. All of those underutilized servers that you had clogging up your data centers, virtualization was the promise of dramatically increasing server utilization and reducing costs. It's not why we kept it though. What virtualization evolved into was a highly automated platform that gave us speed and agility. It arrived because it helped us reduce cost. It stayed because it helped us to do something new, or to do something faster than we could have done it before. It's the same with the cloud. In fact, the cloud is interesting because we looked at it the same way, thinking the cloud's the next way we're going to save money. No, the cloud is not always about saving money. There are opportunities to save money in the cloud, but that shouldn't be the reason. That should not be the primary reason you look at it. The cloud is about speed and agility and flexibility. You're giving the ultimate freedom to the people who've always wanted it, the developers, the application owners, the scientists. You're giving them the freedom to be able to do what they need to do when they need to do it, and consume from a near limitless pool of compute and storage resources. And the benefits have been huge. What we've seen in terms of the kind of acceleration of the pace of change of companies over the last 12 to 18 months has been staggering. A lot of it driven by what cloud computing has enabled. But where there's a positive, there's always, I don't want to say it's a negative, but I'm going to say maybe it is in this case. Cloud spend is out of control. It's out of control because we've been okay, because we've been benefiting from the speed, the agility, the freedom that we've given these groups to move our businesses forward at pace, to make us competitive. Now we're starting to look at how much this is costing us. We bought a company called Spot fairly recently. It was a recent acquisition about 9 months ago. And Spot is I'm not going to go into lots of details, but Spot is about optimizing the compute resources in the cloud. It's about making sure that what you're using is absolutely optimized, not just you've bought a huge server and you're using 5% of it. We're about optimizing it. We benefited from the cloud. Our software development is all done inside the cloud, and our acceleration, the pace of change inside NetApp has been staggering over the last 18 to 24 months. When we brought Spot in and put it into our engineering function, the developers didn't really know it was there. There was no impact on our availability. It started dynamically optimizing the amount of compute we were using at the back end, and it reduced our cloud compute spend by 73%. That is not unusual. We are seeing typically, as companies are starting now to look at how much are we actually spending on cloud, it is often in excess of 60, 70, 80, and I've heard it as high as 90% wastage in terms of what's been spent on cloud resources. So the world has changed. It absolutely is about, all the things that we've looked at before. Waves 1 and waves 2 don't go away, but waves 3, yes, we still need to think about security and protection and all of these characteristics, but now we need to think about cost. And FinOps and these new groups are arriving aggressively within the companies I'm talking to, because this level of spend is not 10%, it's not 20%, it's 70%. And that can't continue. And then we think about data explosion. NetApp are a data company at our heart, although we're doing a lot around insights and optimization. What's happening with data? Well, we're still seeing traditional business systems, traditional kind of systems of record, file services are still creating large amounts of data, and we'll deal with them with wave 1, wave 2 type technologies. And increasingly, we'll look to the cloud at OneDrive and storage as a service to be able to service some of these things as well. But the explosion, the reason that we're now talking about petabytes, exabytes, zettabytes, yottabytes, if you will, is not for these reasons. It's for these reasons. It's these new, if you want to call them digital transformation initiatives, AI, IoT, augmented reality, that are floating out across all industries. I love the augmented virtual reality one. Here's a statistic for you, which is depressing when you're a speaker. 20% is what people remember. So when I give you a presentation, you'll remember less than 20% of what I told you. If I were to do a demo, you'd remember maybe 40% of that. If I were to immerse you in an augmented or virtual reality experience, you would remember up to 80% of that. So you think about that from an education perspective, you think about that from oil rigs. There's so many use cases, and then we think about genomics. It cost us billions to sequence the genome back in the day. Now we have companies like 23andMe and Ancestry who are sequencing the genome for commercial purposes. They will tell you what your ancestry is. They will tell you where you came from. They will tell you about your DNA, and they'll do it for $100, right? Those things are creating massive quantities of data, and we've got to think differently about how we deal with them. So the way we see the emerging models, the way I'm seeing this play out in the companies that I talk to, we already said this. There will continue to be a modernization of legacy platforms. How do we do what we currently do bigger, better, faster, cheaper, more efficiently, all of those kind of things. There's an awful lot of technologies that are not going to go to the cloud anytime soon. A lot of those will stay on premises. Many of those will go to service providers. We've certainly seen a real uptick in companies that aggressively want to pursue a data center reduction or a data center kind of shutdown sort of strategy. And there's a lot of stuff in there that does not belong in Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, but it has to go somewhere. So we've very much seen companies looking at how do we micro outsource parts of the data center that are not really appropriate for the big public clouds. It is going to be increasingly difficult for you to buy software, because the companies that are writing modern applications don't want to sell it to you. They want to sell you a subscription to their software. Office 365, Salesforce, SAP, if you think about a lot of these modern applications, you don't buy them and install them and run them yourself, you buy them and consume them as an operating model. It's done for several reasons. It's easier for a company to maintain software if they're delivering it to you as a service. And also companies that create significant recurring revenues have a higher market valuation. So it's in their own selfish interests not to sell you software that you install. We're seeing mobility as a requirement. And what I mean by mobility across clouds is that it's changed over the last 12 to 18 months. Now what I'm starting to hear from people is, I want to use the cloud that I think is most appropriate for the use case that I've got. And I don't want it to be black and white, because it's not. It's all shades of gray. But people look at Microsoft and think, that's my enterprise cloud, my analytics cloud. Then I've got AWS because the developers loved AWS, and we've got Google because they're great at AI. It's not as simple as that, but people want choice. They want to know that if I'm working with Amazon today, then if Google turns out to be a better proposition for a service for the future, I want to know that I can do that as well. Building internal private clouds is clearly going to be a big focus going forward, simplifying what remains on premises. And then I think the big shift has been microservices. We made it 17.5 minutes in without me talking about Kubernetes. I've done it now. The big shift that I've seen here again over the last 12 to 18 months is Kubernetes has gone from being experimental, gone from being kind of skunkworks projects where I would ask people and they'd say, oh yeah, there's a group somewhere doing something. Now people are seriously looking at Kubernetes for enterprise stateful applications. It has gone mainstream. And that brings a whole new set of requirements around it. How do you secure that data, protect that data? All the things that we've done for decades around on-premises enterprise applications, how do we now start to apply those same things to these Kubernetes, these container environments that now have similar requirements? And then the last couple, you need visibility and insights. I already mentioned optimization. Being able to dynamically optimize what you have is important. Understanding what you have is important. Understanding what you're using on premises in Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, understanding that landscape is incredibly important, because if you don't have that dealt with up front, it'll get out of control very, very quickly. And then there's new consumption models. As we start to see people not wanting to invest in technology or own technology. So there's a lot of different, can we have this as a service, entire architectures as a service, which has been sort of driven by the cloud. So these are the things that I'm hearing, and I'm sure a number of these, not all of them, are things that you're probably having to go through as well. We believe that to get this right, you need to be planning it up front. You need a plan in place, and we believe that an effective strategy can be look at how do you put a data fabric together. It's what's been driving our roadmap for the last 10 years or more. So I think we're in a very good position to help people do this. But when we thought about what would be important to people as they think about a data fabric, freedom of choice, the ability to make technology investments today that don't preclude you from working with Amazon, Microsoft, Google, or working with Amazon today and then choosing to work with Microsoft or Google in the future. Have that as a part of your plan. You may only be Microsoft today. I can guarantee that Amazon will be part of your future, and potentially Google will be part of your future as well. So have that design point in mind up front of how are you going to, as you build out your future ready infrastructure, how are you going to offer freedom of choice? How are you going to make sure it's simple? It's all getting complicated. Not because the pieces are complicated. Each piece is quite simple, but they're all different. So complexity is starting to creep back in again. So how are you going to ensure that you're bringing simplicity to these multi-vendor, multi-cloud environments where everything that you do is slightly different? And that also applies to protection. How are you going to protect, recover, encrypt, secure, deduplicate, provide compliance in a hybrid multi-cloud world? Sure, each cloud probably offers it, but it's all different again. And like I said before, insights and optimization. This was never intended to be a NetApp pitch. If you thought NetApp were a storage company coming into this talk, then what I would like you to go away with is thinking that maybe NetApp has tools, technologies, solutions, and partnerships that could help you build your data fabric. But I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. So I think really from my point of view, I don't like to end with a thank you slide. I thanked you at the beginning. I would like to leave you with this, which is just a thought about what would your data fabric look like? What would that enable you to achieve for the future? And how will you unlock the best of cloud for your business? And on that note, I will say thank you very much for giving me the time. Thank you very much, Bo, and to the team at Evolving for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. And I will hand back to you guys.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you for joining us here today. I really appreciate it. And I think for our attendees that have been joining us here this morning, we've talked a couple of times around, cloud is not a place. Cloud is a set of disciplines. And, those disciplines need to enable your business. And I think the second to last chart you had up there, Matt, around freedom, simplicity, protection, insights. I mean, that's key to what we've been seeing our clients need and how we're trying to engage and work with clients. So and your comments are around NetApp and the investments that you're making. You're on that journey with us, and we really do appreciate your partnership, and we appreciate you being with us today. As we transition to the end of our event today, I invite you to watch this video regarding GenesisWorks. If you're unfamiliar with the organization, they're a national nonprofit that really focuses in on career pathways, internships, and successful skills development for students from underserved communities. Evolving Solutions has been a sponsor and a partner of GenesisWorks for the last 3 years. We're super excited to present them with a very large donation on behalf of our organization and clients later today, live at the Minneapolis event. Please join us in watching this video.
Hi everyone, my name is Li Wei Ming and I am so happy to talk about my GenesisWorks experience. I graduated from Robinson Armstrong High School in 2017 and I did GenesisWorks summer training in 2016. I was part of class 9. This past spring semester, I just graduated from Augsburg University with a Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science. Without GenesisWorks, I wouldn't be here. Through the program, I gained internship experience that made me career ready. GenesisWorks has given me endless amount of support and motivation. It taught me a lot about perseverance. It guided me through the darkest moments of my college career and helped me thrive during my prime. Now I will be a tech coach for the summer, giving everything that I needed to succeed to future young professionals. GenesisWorks is an amazing organization that I'm honored to be a part of. Thank you to all the tech coaches, mentors, PCs, and GenesisWorks Corporation.
As you heard from Li Wei's video, the mission of GenesisWorks is outstanding and really is helping transform lives of students. At Evolving Solutions, we are proud to be a sponsor and partner of GenesisWorks, and we look forward to presenting them with our donation on behalf of our clients and team later today in Minneapolis. I really want to thank you for your time today and for your participation. Throughout the morning, you've heard from our leadership, you've heard from our partners, you've heard from our team members, and hopefully you have a better understanding of where we are as an organization, where we're investing for the future, and where we're going to make sure that we're supporting you as our clients in your technology transformations. If you're joining us this afternoon in one of our live golf events, we look forward to hosting you live and seeing you in person. Feel free to look out for the email that you should receive any minute with final details and reminders for this afternoon. If there was content or questions that arose from today, or you saw something that you're interested in, would like to have a follow-up conversation, feel free to email our team at hybridcloud@evolvingsol.com, and someone will reach out to you within the next 24 hours, and we'll set up a follow-up discussion with you. Again, I really appreciate your time and you being here, and if you're a client of ours, thank you for your business. If you're a partner of ours, thank you for your partnership, and we look forward to seeing you this afternoon. Have a great day.